the only way you're going to find out is by trying it. But my very first client came and...
So welcome to the show, Andrea Pugh.
Thank you, Cayde. Thank you very much for inviting me.
That's right. So what was it about cryotherapy that made you want to start an entire business behind it?
It was one of my friends has fibromyalgia, and she was suffering very badly. And I saw her when she was very poorly, taking a lot of medication, and you couldn't hug her or touch her. And then I saw her about 6 months later, and she was just a totally different person. She was in no pain, she was on the medication, she was transformed, and I went, wow, what have you done? And she said, local cryotherapy, localised cryotherapy, and that's what got me into cryotherapy from the very beginning.
Would you say it was the transformation from your friend who has fibromyalgia, I can never say the second word, had that condition that was obviously the spark, but would you say it completely changed your way on how you looked at how you can treat people's conditions, just in general? Because if you can use cold temperature to heal someone, then what else can you use to cure someone?
Yes, and it was new. I mean, you're talking, this was maybe about 10 years ago, so it was very, very new then. I was in the bank then, so I worked in a bank for 37 years. And I was becoming at the stage where I was a little bit sort of wanted to do something different. And I was coming to a stage in my life where I had the opportunity to do something different. And when I saw how he had transformed her life, I wanted to help people manage their pain. And that's what I really want to do, is to help people manage painful conditions and keep them moving. So, I mean, she was actually walking the walking stick. The next step for her would have been a wheelchair. So I just really wanted to keep people have that quality of life, which is what inspired me to set up the business. And the more I look into it, and the more I treat people with the cryotherapy, the more it amazes me on what the power of the cold, what it can do.
I know I'm kind of changing topics a little, but I think we need to establish this. Can you explain what cryotherapy is for those who don't know? I think we should address that at some point.
Yeah, no, that's a very, very good question. So cryotherapy is the use of cold, and localised cryotherapy uses the cold vapour. You may have heard the Premiership football clubs will have a chamber, cryo chamber they call it. But this is a localised wand, and you can direct the very, very cold vapour. It uses, I have a dewar, and the dewar is a liquid nitrogen. It converts it into that cold vapour. And I direct that cold vapour, could be on your shoulder or on your elbow. And what that does, it has a couple of sort of impacts on your body. When it reduces inflammation, when inflammation may be in that area, joint or muscular, to reduce that inflammation from the cold aspect. It is cold. It doesn't feel that cold when you're having the treatment. It's very pleasant treatment. It also then encourages the blood to sort of withdraw from the area. It's your body's natural defense system. And when it comes back through, it's got more nutrients, more collagen, and enzymes, and more sort of oxygen to help heal the process, to improve and encourage a faster healing process. And it also then disrupts the pain receptors in your skin, in your tissue, to the brain, to interrupt that pain signal. So the brain then starts thinking about, okay, not so sure about that pain, but maybe focus on the cold as well. So it helps to disrupt that pain signal to the brain.
It sounds, because I was doing a little bit of research into it yesterday, because I know it breaks down dead tissue as well, and to help with the circulation of the blood as well. Could it also be used for stuff like moles, warts, or if you got calluses on your hands? So for me, I go to the gym quite frequently, and as a result, I've developed calluses on my hands from just lifting where I've held the dumbbells, barbells, all that sort of thing. Could it be also used to treat that if someone wanted to?
I've heard of liquid nitrogen, so liquid nitrogen being used on warts. So we used to do that actually in doctor surgery. I don't know if they do that anymore in this country. I know they do it in other countries. And they would apply the liquidized version, not the vapor, onto warts, etc., or the skin tags, etc. And that would then gently sort of ease and sort of destroy that wart or skin tag. I've never heard it on calluses. It's always a first day, but yes, they can different versions. So you can get a liquidized version, usually from a maybe from a doctor or from I would say maybe a beauty specialist might do that as well.
Okay, so would it be safe to say there's different types of cryotherapies practices as well? Because you've got the localized, there's a full body one with the chamber, and as we said with the nitrogen. Because I looked it up yesterday, and you can get this like little pen with like a small tube on the end where you can administer it, like some very pressurized cryotherapy gel on someone. So why did you choose localized cryotherapy? Why didn't you just go, you know what, I'll just get a massive chamber, people pay to literally go in there for a couple of minutes and then come out again?
Yes, and I can do it. It's very intense. It's a very intense feeling. And it depends on yourself as a person to whether you prefer a chamber, whether you prefer localized. But for me, localized, I can help people with specific lower back issues or with specific shoulder issues. Some people come to me and they don't like the cold, but they enjoy the cryotherapy, the localized cryotherapy process. But if they don't have a cold, potentially wouldn't go into a chamber. It's just offering that slightly different option alternative for my clients.
I suppose I didn't think of that. You're giving them options or like an alternative, because when you think cryotherapy, you think Han Solo in the yeah, you were. It's a bit like that, but no, yours is here's a magic gizmo. I'm gonna aim it at your shoulder, and away it goes. You're kind of like Harry Potter in that regard of cold air.
Yeah. Cryotherapy's been around in various different guises for thousands of years. And, you go back to the Romans, you go back to the Egyptians. They used to use cold in those times to help people solve, issues with pain, etc. And even Napoleon used to use cryotherapy when he was, with Napoleon's student used to cryotherapy when in that day and age as well. So it's around in different guises. And this then has helped them to really sort of focus and give a sort of next step up, I suppose, to support people who are suffering with painful conditions.
Yeah, because they used to use ice packs, didn't they? And if you need a cheap version, you could pretty much either get yourself an ice cube tray, fill up with water and stick in the fridge and get a plastic bag, or you literally just go to your local convenience store and buy some ice cubes.
And this is it. So that is still using cold to help with reducing pain. If you sprained your ankle, they say rest it, elevate it, ice it. So, the theory of using cold, and then you think about people going into the sea and going sea dipping. Again, it's the cold which helps to reinvigorate the body, or changing a shower to cold when you have a cold shower. It helps to sort of encourage those endorphins, those boosted endorphins around your body. And there's research around. It's not medical research, but there is research around. So, yeah, it's becoming much more popular. So,
what are the benefits are there to using cold therapy? Because I know one of them is you burn a lot of calories from being in cold environment. Because there's there's a bubble in front of me for some odd reason. But I remember when I first lost weight, I used to work in a warehouse, but it was in a chilled environment. And one of the reasons keep in mind, I was eating just under 4,000 calories, but I was still losing weight. And that wasn't just from the heavy lifting, it was also because I was in a cold environment. And someone said to me, well, part of the reason that you're not building, you're not getting fat, is because your body's also having to go into your body storage, your body fat to try and keep you warm. But what are some of the other benefits as well? So we've got blood circulation, you lose some weight. I know cryotherapy's got this issue at the moment where I'm going to use the term pseudoscience. It's not had a lot of research backed by scientists over the years. I know it's kind of like life coaching in the sense where its biggest strength is it's not regulated, but that's also its biggest weakness, because you could just have anyone turn up and do that. But with cryotherapy, we don't know the full benefits and the full drawbacks of such a practice.
Yes, and there is research. Some of the research is limited. It's not backed with medical research. So again, if the research and the actual numbers involved in that particular research is not big enough, then they won't classify it or they won't recognise it. So you are correct in that respect. Then one of the reasons that the cryotherapy first started off with a Japanese professor in 1978, and he invented the chamber. And the reason he invented the chamber was to help his clients who were suffering from rheumatoid arthritis. So he actually then conducted some studies on his clients, but some who were actually achieving and receiving the therapy, some weren't. And he was finding that with the ones that were receiving it, how their inflammation reduced, and how then that meant less pain for them, and they led a better quality of life. So the pros and cons. So from a cryotherapy perspective, we I use it and use it in different ways. But so far I've found that people with nerve issues have benefited from using cryotherapy. Again, the cold helps them to manage the pain level on the nerve issue. And then also then people I know use it in beauticians, so people use it then because it can help with the reduction of collagen, so facial. It's very much used in the beauty world. Well, I don't use it for that. For me, I use it mainly for pain management and also for recovery from injury. Again, somebody came into my studio and he tore a calf muscle, and you could see he was limping, you could see the difference in his calves, you could see how much of a swollen that his calf was. So couldn't touch it, couldn't give him a massage, couldn't do that, but I gave him some cryotherapy. And he came to me and he went to A&E, and yes, he had to run a calf muscle. Within 4 weeks with cryotherapy, he was back walking again, and walking upstairs, which was a very good and very fast recovery rate.
Would cryotherapy work on long-term injuries? So for me, I did my back in when I was 16. I'm 25 now, but I'm still feeling the effects from that to this day, and I have gone and get some back treatment for it, but I don't think it got the actual roots because where it's actually painful, my back kind of arches a little. But but my point is that I'll feel sorry for Cayde because he's got a bad back. My question is, would it help with long-term injuries if someone sustains an injury for a long amount of time as well?
It can do. It all depends on the injury, on the person, on the individual. And people come to me and say, well, would you do this? And I'm saying, well, the only way to find out is by trying it. So my very first client came and he'd had a back injury many, many years ago. And he'd been to various other professionals to see whether he could manage the pain, and he just couldn't. They just couldn't sort of get to the root of the problem. But from a series of cryotherapy sessions and treatments, his back pain is now gone. It does depend on the individual. It depends on the issue. It is all individual to you and your body and how you recover from as well, and how all different factors will play into that. We can do.
I guess that's good then, because that means there's a method for everyone, even if the same flavour doesn't work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I know you said you got into cryotherapy because your friend suffered from their condition, but I'm asking for more of a financial and logistic perspective. How did you get set up your cryotherapy business? I guess in the equipment, getting that all set up and running, because I can't imagine that. I don't know what it's called you've got, but I can't imagine that was cheap at all.
No, and I've researched the suppliers from a localised cryotherapy machine. There are various different suppliers out there. The supplier I chose is from Poland, and cryotherapy is much more widely used in Poland. So I actually got my machine, called Penguin, from Poland. The main thing there was to source a supply of liquid nitrogen. That wasn't easy. In Wales, which is where I'm based in southeast Wales. The only other cryotherapy trained is in Bridgend, about 30 miles away. So there's nobody else in this area who actually conducts this type of treatment. So it took me a while, and of course, I left the bank in 2019, and then 2020, COVID hit. This is all happening while we're having COVID, so I didn't actually start practicing until December 21. It took me about a year to find a supplier for liquid nitrogen. Who would come out and did a survey from the lab to make sure it's safe. Did a survey for the area, make sure the machine's safe, what I'm going to use. So they have to test the machine as well. Very safety focused, which is good, and that's the right, because that's from a client perspective as well. So it did take a while to get the supplier sorted out, and then the machine came over from Poland actually. Over into the UK. So about a year and a half. So yeah, a lot of research and a lot of patience.
I suppose if you're getting everything from basically overseas, and yeah, it would take a while. So, oh, I've ordered it 6 months ago. Oh, wait, it's still due in 2 months. Oh, nabbit.
Yeah, it's a long lead time. A long lead time.
Who has been your most? I tend to ask this question, but I think in your case it'd be very interesting. Who would you say was your most well, the best result you got from working with a client? So they came and they say they had a massive issue with their elbow to the point where it was this or nothing else, and you managed to turn it around for them where it's no longer an issue, or yeah, anything similar to that?
Yeah, I've got a few clients. The one client I think stands out for me. It's a lady, and she came to me. She tried any sort of treatment she could find. She had a bulging disc in the lower back. The next step really was going to be an operation. She really didn't want to go down the operation route. And so she was trying all various different treatments and came to me, and she couldn't really get comfortable in the bed. She couldn't keep still. You know, she was in so much pain. She had a little boy. She couldn't pick up a little boy. And then after a series of cryotherapy treatments, we found that she was walking better. She was sitting better. She could reach down to the floor. She was lying better on the bed. And it was interesting. So after 6 months of treatments, then she went and had another MRI scan, and they found that the bulging disc had actually reduced. So the inflammation had reduced. But then what she was doing then enabled her to start walking, and she wanted to lose weight, and that enabled her to start losing weight. So the quality of her life and what she was actually achieving was just immense. And she's still not in any pain, which is just amazing. That's fabulous. It doesn't come to me anymore. She doesn't need any treatment. So.
Would you consider that the ultimate success where they stopped coming to you because at that point you know the treatments worked? Because I know with other professions and other professionals, they want you to keep coming back.
Yes, no, I mean, there's a couple of reasons, but my main reason is to make sure the client then doesn't come back. So they go off, they leave their life, they've got a good quality of life, and they're not in any pain. That's my aim for a person who comes to see me.
I suppose it also helps your business as well, where people, if someone you refers someone else to you, they can say, yeah, they treated my back and I don't need to go back. That was great grammar, I know, but you get my point. It's they got the end result they want, so they don't need it anymore. It's not like you go to a bad therapist, you're still there for 7 years later when you would have been better off going somewhere else.
Potentially. It depends on the condition, but on the reason that they come in. But a lot of my clients actually do come, have a few sessions, etc., and then they don't have any pain anymore, so they don't need to come back. Or they might come back when it flares up, if it ever flares up again. So it depends on the condition of the client as well.
What has been the most unique condition you've worked on? So you're saying about it might flare up and the person comes back, but what's the most unique client that you had where they came to you and you looked at them and went, how the hell am I going to sort this out with a magic wand?
Yeah, they've been very different. People coming with different conditions. There was one gentleman who came to me and he had an accident in work, and he'd had his ribs were pressing on nerves on the side of his body, and he was in incredibly huge amount of pain. And he actually experienced cryotherapy in London when he went up to see a consultant up in London, and he found some relief. And he found me, and he lived above me, so he's about 2.5 hours away. And he actually travelled up to experience to see whether the localised cryotherapy would help him. And he was finding that it was helping him, but the drive was causing a lot of pain to get here in the first place. But then what happened then is we had a discussion about whether he could actually look into cryotherapy himself. So he knew that cryotherapy could help him, but whether he could actually look to see whether he could hire a company himself more local. He didn't have that long drive, because the long drive was actually causing more pain as well. So that was very unique. It was an accident at work, and the actual result was some crushed ribs pressing onto his nerve.
Yeah, when you said that, I went, oh, that's gotta hurt.
Yes, he was in a lot of pain.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything to that, but it's, did you win the top 100 go-to businesses in South Wales in 2023, or were you a runner-up? I couldn't really understand when I looked into it.
So I'm one of the top 100 for business in South Wales. So I think it was, I've also done it in 24 as well. So we've just gone and we would for that as well.
Okay. I wasn't quite sure if you won it or you.
I mean, the top end.
Can you explain that awards for those who don't know?
And there were various different categories, and they look at the businesses in New South Wales. They look to see customer service, innovation, what the business can provide for their clients, any sort of feedback, doing testimonials from clients. We take various different aspects of the business into consideration, and then there's a panel of judges who look at the businesses and then judge who can be within that sort of top 100 sort of accolade, really.
Okay, that helps make things a lot more sense to me. On your website, it says that you do cryotherapy for Dragons Rugby Club.
I used to do massage, and I've also sort of privately treatments with some of the players. Yes.
What's it like assisting a professional rugby team then with their sport, with their treatments?
Very privileged to work with professional athletes. To be honest, it was they were very polite, very respectful, and a great atmosphere there. And yeah, it's a very good experience.
And what's the difference in that experience between working with professional athletes as opposed to put it nicely, people who come off the street?
Just different conditions, different reasons for you being there, really. The athletes were more on how to prevent injury. Some of them were injured, so then how to get them from recovery back and onto playing. And then you might get people coming in more pain management type of focus who come in sort of ring and go on the website and sort of ring up and say, yeah, I'm in pain from my foot and my ankle and my shoulder and my back. There's different reasons why you're there and different reasons why you're treating them, which is great variation. It's fabulous. You never know who's going to ring up and for what reason they're going to ring you up for.
Would you say your job is very varied when you said, like you said, with the athletes or someone comes to you saying, their conditions are going to vary? Would you say it's a way of keeping it fresh, your work fresh and engaging?
It is, and it's great because you can, along with cryotherapy, I offer various other treatments as well. You might find that one treatment works better than another, or it could be a combination of treatments which work better. And sometimes when you start the treatment, you might change the treatment. So it really is sort of listening and understanding to what the client's telling you about how their body's reacting, and then planning that sort of treatment and how you're going to use that moving forward. So it's fascinating to understand how and learning more about how the body works.
And what have you learned about how the body works since you've started?
That the brain is very powerful. The brain then can, sometimes if we're emotionally stressed or, the people that we've had a trauma in our life, potentially that can manifest in sort of pain in the body as well. So it's not just a physical aspect you need to think about, it's also the mental aspect, potentially, that you can discuss with your clients. So it's just fascinating to see how the two work so closely together and how they correlate and interlink.
What would you say to someone who's looking to start their own cryotherapy business? So as you said, you had to basically wait a few years to get everything set up with importing the equipment, getting someone to come out and check the premises for permission to use liquid nitrogen, to actually setting up and running the business. What advice would you give to someone?
Do the research. Really make sure that you're researching the machine that you're going to buy is from a reputable supplier. Also then, where you're going to get your liquid nitrogen from. So you need to make sure you can have a supply of liquid nitrogen before you buy the machine. There's no point buying a machine and finding out that you can't get that supply of liquid nitrogen. That's really key. And they will come out and sort of assess your premises and everything. We've got the right premises for that. Because the sort of the jewel that I've got, you can't really have any stairs involved. So, where is the premises? Where is your studio? Is it on the ground floor? So all those type of aspects would be into that research. So do research very, very well.
I want to ask about the liquid nitrogen and some of the dangers that come with it. What are some of the dangers for someone where you require someone to actually come out and test the premises to make sure that it's okay to use, because I actually don't know at all. I didn't think that liquid nitrogen you'd actually, nitrogen, get that, but I didn't think you'd actually need someone to come out for liquid nitrogen specifically.
Liquid nitrogen will burn. So if you have pure liquid nitrogen on you, then it'll burn you. So it's a cold burn because it's still cold. It's like a cold burn as opposed to a hot burn, but it's still very, very painful. So you need to make sure that you're wearing gloves and goggles and just that protective sort of, to protect yourself whilst you're entering it. So I have a big liquid nitrogen tank in my courtyard. It's locked, so nobody else can get access to it. So then I'll decant liquid nitrogen into my dewar. So the dewar is small enough now that the machine go into the room where the studio is. And then, so when I'm decanting it from the bigger tank to the dewar, I wear my protective equipment. And then when you're actually in the room, I have an oxygen monitor. Liquid nitrogen can displace oxygen in the room. So you need to make sure you have an oxygen monitor in the room, because otherwise it can potentially asphyxiate you and you wouldn't even know. That's one of the key danger rules, is to make sure that there is no liquid nitrogen sort of actually coming out into the air into that room. So have an oxygen monitor in the room. Actually monitor that all the time. And then it's just the size of the room. So the bigger the room and the more ventilated the room, the better it is when if you actually use liquid nitrogen. So the room is ventilated. It's the first size room as well. So there's no danger there too.
Yeah, I was just going to ask whether or not you should really ventilate the room, but you answered that for me. What are your plans with your cryotherapy business?
So really is to combine it with my other treatments, so combine it well with needling or sports massage, and to help more people with painful conditions. So spread the word. So I'm still spreading the word, so get my brand out there. So I keep networking. Still very much people don't know about it. What I'm finding as well are people who have been to doctors, have been to hospital, and they're on painkillers because there's nothing else that can be done for their condition. They're on painkillers, and they just want to try something to get them off the painkillers. They don't want to take painkillers for the rest of their life. They want to try something to see if this other treatment will help them to be able to manage and reduce their medication really, and help to manage that pain through a natural product as opposed to medication.
Andrea Pugh, everyone, where can people find you if they want to book you for some cryotherapy treatment or just want to get to know you some more?
So website. So my website is www.CryoSport-Recovery.co.uk. My website then is any contact details, my telephone number, and also on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn as well. So my social media, LinkedIn, and also the website.
That was a chilling episode, pun intended. But if you're like to learning all about how cryotherapy can help you, and you want to learn more about different types of therapy, then I have Sarah Maud, who is a hypnotherapist, right here. Go on, I'll see you there.